All right, welcome back. The next thing that we want to do is create this inner container, essentially. Um, really what we're doing is we're creating a certain amount of gutter here, a certain amount of padding. Padding is where you have a space inside of an element, like an offset. And then there's a thing called margin, and that's where you have, for example, if I have a box around this element, and I'm trying to offset it from another element that's like this distance here between these two elements is called margin. But if I have an element here and I'm trying to put padding like this, like in between this box and this box, this is called padding, okay? So essentially what we're trying to do here for our gutter is to create padding in between our outer content container and our inner content container, okay? So there are a few ways we could do that. We could just like straight up write the CSS for it. But since I'm using Bootstrap, I might as well use kind of what Bootstrap already has built into it. So you can come to the Bootstrap documentation and then go down on the layout and then into containers. And then you're going to notice that they have a bunch of different containers in here that you can use. And one thing you need to get used to when working with Bootstrap is the concept of their different breakpoints. So essentially there's like an extra small breakpoint right here. They have them all listed, and the pixel size in which they kick in. So we have extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, and XXL, okay? Now, each of these different breakpoints has kind of a suffix, as you can see here. So SM for small, MD for medium, LG for large, XL for extra large, and XXL for XX large, okay? And then there's this final option called container fluid. Now, this is what we're going to use as a container fluid. And this is just, it's kind of what it sounds like. It's a container that will stretch out 100% of the width that it has. Now, sometimes you get designs that are based on Bootstrap because Bootstrap is a very popular CSS framework. And I highly recommend you use it. It's very helpful, as you're going to see. It allows us to do a lot of cool stuff. If you get an actual design that's made, specifically for Bootstrap, then you would be able to use probably one of these containers. But we don't really have that option. So we're kind of creating our own custom container here. So I'm going to grab this container fluid class. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a div here and put a class and a container fluid. Okay. And I'm just going to save this. And we're going to go back and we're going to look at our container. I'm just going to dock this to the bottom real quick. And what you should notice here is now if I mouse over this container fluid div, we have this light blue area. That's our inner content area. And then we have this purple area on the outside. And that's the padding or the gutter. So now we have this specific part set up. And you'll see kind of how this all starts to come together. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to kind of create two sections, right? Okay, so we're going to have this top area that looks like this. And we're going to have a bottom area that looks something, it's going to actually be, I don't know, something like this. And then there's going to be a certain amount of margin in between these two things. And actually this top one is going to be slightly different too. We're going to essentially have a container here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw two different boxes in here. I'm going to draw a box here. And I'm going to draw a box here. Okay. These are the two margins we need to separate out the two areas. But let's go ahead and create the two areas first, and then we'll worry about this other stuff later. So what I'm going to do is delete what we have here. And then I'm just going to make two divs here. And one is going to have the class top. And then I'm just going to press Control D to duplicate the line. And then we're going to have a bottom area. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the section 1 here. And I'm going to add a top class. And I'm going to add a bottom class. And then I can just put in top. And I can add bottom. And just for the sake of clarity, I'm just going to come in here and change the color to FFF on this. And this will just make the default color white just for the time being, so that we can clearly see the text here. And so we have two areas stacked on top of each other. So a div, by default, if you don't do anything to it, it just stretches out and essentially just makes a horizontal slice on the screen. And we can manipulate this in order for the div to not do this, but this is just the default div behavior. And kind of how I think about divs is it's like stacking stuff on top of each other and kind of like you're making a layered cake. Okay. So the next thing that we want to do here is we want to start working on our top section, and we'll start on that in the next video.